Howard Street, I suppose, will always have a special meaning to me because I've spent so much of my life here. 56 years I've actually been working at Howard Street now. Met a lot of interesting folks through business connections, and seen a lot of changes, I guess, over the years as well. Some people, sadly, who were my friends are no longer with us. But yeah, Howard Street is a really special place, I think. I've got connections, family connections, insofar as my grandmother was born in the street. My mum used to worship in the street at the Salvation Army, and I've been working here for 56 years. So, yes, special. I'm David Hodgson. I'm a chartered accountant, chartered banker, and I've spent all of my working life in Howard Street. Started in 1965 after leaving Tyne High School. So it seems to be a long time, but it's all gone past in a flash as well. So yeah, I have got a family connection with Howard Street in that my mother's mother, so my grandmother, was born at number 55 Howard Street in 1895. When I was at school, I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do in terms of work. I did have an aptitude for mathematics, and it was because of that my mum thought accountancy would be a good line to follow. So she actually called into the office. How she came to pick Reed Milburn & Company, I have no idea. But she just called into the office when she was out shopping one day and asked if there was any openings for new members of staff. So they said I had to write a letter of inquiry to them, which I did. I had an interview, and they took me on. So it was very fortunate that they were looking for staff at the time. The sad thing was that at that particular time you needed O-levels to do the studying. You needed 5 O-levels, maths and English. And I got my O-level results sort of 3 days later and hadn't achieved. So I had to go back to school again from the September through to the January to do resits. And thankfully I then passed the exam, so started again in the January. So it was a bit of a false start initially, but I then stuck at it. In 1971, I thought I would have to move on to get experience elsewhere and to, earn additional money elsewhere. But I voiced this to Tom Reed, and he said, well, if I stayed with the practice for another year or two, gained some additional experience, then perhaps he would consider taking me in as a partner. And so, rather cheekily, I suggested that, well, why wait? So I think he was a little bit taken aback at that. But he said, well, leave it with me a little while. And then later in the week, he said, yeah, fine. You can start as a salaried partner, which meant I wasn't getting in the profits, a share of the profits. I was getting a fixed salary. And it just developed from that. When I first started at the office, this was a street of basically professional practices. There were 3 firms of accountants in Howard Street. There was a firm, Leslie Knox and Company, on the far side, on the western side of Howard Street. Tom Reed was obviously here in 71. And there was another firm, French Wallace and Company, who were a little bit further down the street. There were a lot of small businesses in North Shields, whereas now, the businesses that are active in Shields, often part of a much larger organisation, whereas that wasn't the case. And you wouldn't get lots of empty properties either. You know, every shop would be open and would have someone operating from it. I possibly didn't appreciate how much history there was in Howard Street. I think perhaps when you come to work in the street as a 16-year-old, that's something that goes over your head to some extent. It was clearly an area for business. And this building that we're in, or this area that we're in now, as you say, it was very much centred around the local corporation, Tynemouth Corporation. I believe the electricity board was also in this building. There was a couple of insurance companies adjacent. The Pearl Assurance and the Refuge Assurance companies were both adjacent to this building. And of course everyone used to come here to pay their rates. So it was a centre for the local population who were obviously using these buildings. When I was at school, I didn't used to enjoy history. And then I was starting to do a little bit of work on family trees and such like. And that sort of got my interest, I think, to a greater extent in what had happened in the past. And because it becomes personal to you, you know, if you think about you exist because of your predecessors and so on, and then you want to know what sort of life they had and what they experienced. So it is very interesting, that.